What is going on, guys? Matt Cooper here, aka MODC Architecture, and welcome back to another video. Today what I'm going to be talking about is the process of sketching, going from a sketch which is just sort of really basic to a finalized concept, just that entire process throughout. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sketching a bit of my own work. I'm looking to create some very personal experiences within a tower I'm designing, so I'm going from this mass which I've made. I need to look inside that and sketch and develop the interior. So yeah, let's get into it. But before we do that, if you guys could just like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when I next upload, that would be awesome and really help me out. Let's get into the video. So number one is a precedent sketch. Now by precedent sketch what I mean is that you're taking a precedent study and you're making it your own, you're putting your own spin on it. So by this you've looked at the precedent study and you've collected a number of images, and what you're going to do is you're going to sketch out those images and analyze them. The reason you do this is because in a portfolio it's not good to copy and paste pictures and just have them in your portfolio. It's good to have original artwork, I suppose you could call it. So I would always sketch out your precedent studies. No matter how simplified they are, it's always good to have them. So definitely do this as part of your sketching process. It will also get you into the mood of recognizing the shapes that you need to be putting into your design as well, if the precedent is very pertinent to your project. So on to number two. Number two is all about sketching from the precedent study you've just looked at. So taking inspiration from the shapes that you've noticed in your precedent study and the concepts that you've noticed in that precedent study, and then implementing them into your own design context. So for me, what I've been looking at are these triangles which shape over a object which is passing underneath them. And so what I'm looking at is a roller coaster, so I'm implementing this concept into the roller coaster typology by having these elements up above, and then ideally what happens is that these triangles rise up and down as the roller coaster passes through, specifically the heads pass through. I feel like it's very important to have this stage because it shows you understanding the precedent and then implementing that idea into your own design. I do feel that it shows a deeper understanding of how the elements work and a critical thinking towards how this element could go into your design. But again, that page hopefully communicates all of that from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to communicate a story. You want to communicate a story with these sketches. So number 3 is sketching in plan. Now sketching in plan is very important for an architectural portfolio because it allows you to really appreciate the space in a different form of representation, because normally you sketch in 3D or you sketch in section and you can kind of understand what the spaces look like from a volumetric perspective. However, you don't ever look at the plan and you don't ever look at the spatial conversations that your programs have together in plan, and this could add an extra element to your design perhaps. Another reason why we sketch in plan is because you need to be able to understand the site and understand how your design affects the site and what site constraints are going to affect your plan itself. This is all very important to have because if you don't consider these design constraints, then your design will have multiple flaws in the final stages, and when your design has multiple flaws in the final stages of your design process as a student, it is probably the most horrible thing to have to deal with it because it requires many all-nighters. But yeah, so you want to sketch and plan to figure out your site, figure out spatial concepts horizontally rather than just vertically as you would in section and in axonometric views. Overall a very useful tool to have as well, just to represent your architectural proposal in a different format. So at number 4 we've got the section sketching. Section sketching is very important and should go in tandem with your plan sketching, because as you create the form of this design you should always be referencing your plan sketches and then your section sketches, just to make sure that you've got this coherent design that can work both as a form and also structurally. Obviously it can be refined later on, however starting technically from those initial site sections and those section sketches will really help speed up your progress towards a final design. in the later stages of your degree, in the later stages of the term. So what I find is that sketching an entire enclosed space first is actually probably the least helpful thing you can do. What you'll want to do is start sketching in section your programmatic concepts and then finding the interconnections between those concepts or between those programs, so that you can then start to form an enclosed space around it. So you can start showing the facades, you can start showing floor plates, and then you can sort of decide, okay, do I want 1 or 2 towers, maybe even 3, and then you can start putting the circulation in between those towers. For example, I'm putting in some circulation between my 2 towers in the form of these cylindrical kind of diagonal spaces. They'll form as a circulation. Another interesting and very important thing for a section to show, or section sketches to show, is that you're acknowledging your site. In acknowledging your site, you're already furthering your design and already probably improving your marks, to be honest, because you're showing, you're being critical of your site, and you can acknowledge what constraints there are, and you can also acknowledge what design opportunities there are with your site. For example, if there's a existing building on your site, you could perhaps already use that, and then you can go on the environmental route of not of using less materials. Perhaps if it's a historical building and you need to demonstrate the sort of interplay between the historical and the modern, then that will be very useful to show in a section. Section sketches are absolutely imperative to have in your design portfolio, so make sure you do them, and make sure you do those plans alongside them. Finally, number 5 is your sketch modelling. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any materials to hand, so I couldn't do some physical sketch modelling, but that's perfectly as valid as doing computerized sketch modelling. Now, the reason you do sketch modelling is to figure out what your spaces look like volumetrically. You've done your sketch plans, you've done your sketched sections, and now you want to play about with the spaces volumetrically in a 3D format, whether that be, again, a program or physical format, it doesn't matter. I personally prefer using programs because I can very freely edit the sketch, and I can make a bunch of iterations at the click of a button, and also they make, in my personal opinion, or at least how I do them, they make for better drawings in the portfolio. So I tend to do this, and the reason you do these sketch models is just to figure out whether what you've designed works, really, whether you like what you've designed, because really you don't know what this design's going to look like until you've done it in 3D and you've designed it in full. Because you only get a snippet of what your design actually looks like from a section, and then you're using your brain to create this sort of 3D form without actually knowing what it will look like. So the 3D sketch definitely helps realize the design concept after a couple of iterations of sketches from in section and in plan. I find in sketch models to be a bit more particular about what you put in them, and to be a bit more accurate with what you want to have in them, because they are essentially the final stage of an iteration. They're the final stage of confirming that you've gone through this thought process, and then it's readying you to go on to your next iteration where you critique that thought process. Now, I personally think that sketch modelling is a very viable and probably one of the most significant ways to sketch. It's definitely one that tutors really love, because they can see that you're playing around spatially with different elements, and they can see you're really getting into the nitty-gritty elements of your design, and they're seeing that you're experimenting. So I would absolutely implore you to have these sorts of sketches in your design as well, because the most important thing is you're experimenting, you're thinking spatially, and you're trying to be an architect. So absolutely get these in. Everyone, thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed. Again, if you did like it, please leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. Have a great day and goodbye.